Good morning, students. So in this video, I'll explain the basic types of companies under the Income Tax Act 1961. So for the sake of simplicity or for convenient, I have classified the associates into four types. One is those registered under Companies Act 2013 or 1956 Act, or for that matter, any previous company law. Okay. Those registered under Companies Act 2013 or Companies Act 1956 or under any other previous company law, or corporations established under an act, state act, central act, or provincial act. Okay, central, state, or provincial act, any act, central act or state act, or body corporates incorporated outside India, institution, association, or body. Okay. First, we'll start with this. Those registered or incorporated under Companies Act 2013. Okay, those registered or incorporated under Companies Act 2013. So if I take into first category of entities, first category, okay, entities registered under Companies Act 2013 or Companies Act 1956 or any other previous company law or any other previous company law. Okay, right. Now, these entities which are registered under these acts, which are registered under these acts. Now we have to ask the questions, basic questions. Right. Now I'll ask the basic questions about these entities. So first question is, what is the first question? Is it a company? First question, is it an Indian company? So first we have to ask the question, is it an Indian company? Because if it is an Indian company, then we'll go to the definition of a company. Okay, is it an Indian company? Yes, it is an Indian company. Yes, because it is specifically covered under the definition. Because it is specifically covered under the definition of Indian company. Okay, Indian company says company incorporated under Companies Act. Okay, is it an Indian company? Yes, because it is specifically incorporated under, it is specifically covered under the definition of Indian company. Next, is it a company? Is it a company? Yes, because it is an Indian company. Because it is an Indian company. Because it is an Indian company. So what is the conclusion? All Indian companies are companies. All Indian companies are companies. The definition. Okay, basic definition. All Indian companies are companies. Therefore, is it a company? Yes, because it's an Indian company. So first we have to check the definition of Indian company. Then we have to come to the definition of a company. Okay, because company definition says company means an Indian company. Therefore, first we have to check whether it satisfied the definition of Indian company or not. If it satisfied the definition of Indian company, automatically it covers under the definition of a company. Therefore, since it is specifically covered, it's an Indian company. Because it's an Indian company, it is a company. Is it a domestic company? Is it a domestic company is the question. Yes, because it is an Indian company. Because it is an Indian company. Because it is an Indian company. Since it is a domestic, since it is an Indian company, all Indian companies are domestic companies. All Indian companies are domestic companies. Okay. Because in Indian companies, therefore I should say all Indian companies are companies and all Indian companies are domestic companies. All Indian companies are companies and all Indian companies are domestic companies. This is the first category of entity. How we'll analyze whether it is a company or not. Next, we'll go to the second category of the definition. We'll go to the second category of the definition. Okay, so I have categorized into four things: registered under Companies Act 2013 or 1956, corporations established under central or state act, body corporate incorporated outside India, and institute, association, or body. Okay, right. So first category completed, why it is an Indian company, why it is a company, and why it is a domestic company. Next, second category. What is the second category? Entities incorporated outside India. Entities incorporated outside India. Entities or body corporates incorporated outside. That is the second category. Okay, entities incorporated outside India. Entities incorporated outside India. Is it an Indian company? Yes. No, it is not an Indian company because it is not specifically covered here. Is it an Indian company? Okay, entities in, sorry, second category is this one, right? Corporations established under Central or State Act. Okay, corporations established under Central Act or State Act. Under Central Act or State Act. Corporations established under Central Act or State Act. Is it an Indian company? Yes, because it is specifically covered under the definition. The important point is that here, because it is specifically covered under the definition of Indian company, and usually and usually the registered office or principal office will be in India. The registered office or principal office will be in India. Principal office will be in India. Will be in India. Why? Because it is a company incorporated. It is an entity registered by the. It is an entity established under any central act or under state act. Therefore, since if the entity is incorporated by government of India or any state government, obviously the registered office must be in India. Logically think, why if an entity is started by an Indian company, why will it keep registered office, legal office outside India? Either registered office or principal office, either one in India, that is sufficient. Okay, if an entity is started by the government of India or government of any state, then why they will establish a registered office or principal office outside India? Even if they have a business purpose, some establishment outside India, but legally the source will be in India only, registered office. Therefore, the condition. So normally Indian company definition, if you see that corporation, associations, etc., they should have a registered office or principal office in India. But the moment I say corporation established under central act or state act, obviously they will have it practically. There may be 1% of the cases, but that is not relevant for the academic purpose. So practically we think that if an entity is incorporated under central act or state act, in by and large they will have a registered office or principal office in India. Therefore, so usually the registered office or principal office will be in India. That is, there is an Indian company. Is it a company? Yes. It is a company. Why it is a company? Because it is an Indian company. Why it is a company? Because it's an Indian company. Company definition says company means an Indian company. Company includes an Indian company. Therefore, okay, therefore it is a domestic, it is a company means yes, since it covered under the definition of Indian company, it is a company also, and it is a domestic company. The moment I say Indian company, it automatically comes under the domestic company. It automatically comes under the domestic company. This is the second category. Now, what is the third category of entities? Entities incorporated outside India. Third categories of entities, entities incorporated outside India. Entities incorporated outside India. Entities incorporated outside India. So corporations, entities incorporated outside India. Entities incorporated outside India. Is it an Indian company? No. Is it an Indian company? Entities incorporated outside India. It is not an Indian company. I have given the table. Is it a company? Is it a company? Yes, because it is specifically covered under the definition of a company. Because it is specifically covered under the definition of a company. Covered under the definition of a company. Okay, because it is specifically covered under the definition of a company. It's a company. So is it a domestic company? Since it is not an Indian company, it can be treated as a domestic company if they made arrangements in India for declaration of dividend. Yes, if they have made arrangements. Yes, if arrangements are made in India. If arrangements are made in India for declaration of dividend. For declaration of a dividend. If this condition is satisfied, they will be a domestic company. They are not an Indian company. So even though they are not an Indian company, still there is a chance of becoming a domestic company if at all they have made any arrangements for declaration of dividend in India. This is third category, entities incorporated outside India. And this fourth category, institute or association or body. Look at this. This fourth category, institutes, association or body. Okay. So for your reference, I'm giving you one slide. You can take the screenshot or photo of it. Okay. So the last category, institute, association or body. Last category, institute or association or body. We'll see whether that institute, association or body is a Indian company or not. Okay. Institute, association or body. Institutes, association or body. It is not a company. It is not a corporation. Some other institute. Is it a company or not? So first, declared by the board, declared by CBDT, declared by CBDT as a company, declared by CBDT as a company. No such declaration. No such a declaration. CBDT declared it as a company. CBDT declared it as a company. No such declaration. No such a declaration. If it is declared by CBDT as a company, it will be company. It will be company. So no such declaration, not a company. No such declaration, not a company. It will be company. Sir, it is a company, sir. Fine, well and good. But how about the thing? Okay. So is it whether it has a registered office or principal office in India? 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 Registered office or principal office outside India? registered office or principal office outside India. So if it is having a registered office or principal office in India, it is declared by the board as a company. If it is having a registered office or principal office in India, it will be an Indian company. It will be an Indian company. So if it is an Indian company, obviously it will become a domestic company. If it is an Indian company, it becomes a domestic company. If it is an Indian company, automatically it becomes a domestic company. No, sir, CPTT has declared it as a company, but it does not have a registered office or principal office in India. Therefore, it does not cover under Indian company, not an Indian company, not an Indian company. Since it does not have registered office or principal office in India, it is not an Indian company. Okay, fine. Now, so since it is not an Indian company, let us see whether they have made arrangements in India. Arrangements in India for dividend. Arrangements in India for dividend. Arrangements in India for dividend. No such arrangements. Arrangements in India for dividend. No such arrangements. So if at all they have made any arrangements in India for declaration, it is a domestic company. If they have made arrangements in India for declaration, it is a domestic company. Okay, it is a domestic company, not an Indian company, but still there is a chance of becoming a domestic company. So this, no such arrangements, not a domestic company, not a domestic company, not a domestic company. Okay, so this is how we have to check institute or association or a body. Okay, is it declared by the board as a company? Yes. Okay, is it having a registered office or principal place of business in India? Yes. If it is an Indian company, is it a domestic company? Yes. So this is how we have to check institute, association or body declared by the CBDT as a company, not declared. If it is declared by the CBDT as a company, check whether they have registered office or principal office in India. If they have a registered office or principal office in India, automatically it becomes an Indian company. The moment it becomes an Indian company, automatically it covers a domestic company. If the registered office or principal office is outside India, it is not an Indian company. So even though it is not an Indian company, check whether they have made any arrangements for declaration of dividend in India. If they have made any arrangements, yes, it is a domestic company. If not made, then it is not a domestic company. Okay, that is what I have given in this chart also. Okay, institute, association or body. Is it an Indian company? Yes, if it is declared by the board, if it is declared by the board, if it is declared by the board, it is an Indian company, registered office or principal office in India, and both. So in order to call it as an Indian company, it should be declared by the board and also registered office or principal office in India. Both conditions to be satisfied to become an Indian company. Okay, is it a domestic company? Any one condition. If it is an Indian company, these two conditions are satisfied and it became an Indian company, automatically it becomes a foreign company. Sorry, automatically it becomes a domestic company. No, sir, out of this, two conditions are not satisfied. Only one condition is satisfied. What is that? Declared by the board to be a company. Okay, so if the second condition is not satisfied, it will not become an Indian company. But if at all it had made any arrangements in India, that means either these two conditions, declaration by board and registered office or principal office in India, or declaration by board and made arrangements in India. If these two conditions are satisfied within the B2 conditions, if these two conditions are satisfied, it becomes a domestic company. Okay, so this is how I have classified these three definitions. So as per the company income tax act, these are the three definitions: definition of a company, definition of Indian company, and definition of a domestic company. Okay, so to classify under these categories, I have classified the assets into 4 categories so that we can comfortably classify whether it is a company or not, it is an Indian company or not, it's a domestic company or not. Okay, thank you.